good day, everyone. This is the second day of Grafist Symposium, and welcome to our symposium. My name is Salih Ofluoğlu. I'm going to moderate this session. The session that you're watching is the fourth session, and the theme is narration in design education. And our speakers will be presenting how they have managed the online education environment during the pandemic time, and innovative pedagogical approaches, and making the process of online learning a more motivating platform is something really very attractive and really interesting to be listened. We will have 4 speakers in this session. Each of the speakers will have 15 minutes, and we will have a Q&A session for 15 minutes in the very end of the session. And you can write your questions to the chat box if you like. And to whom you are leading your question may also be added when you're asking your questions. Without going further in the introduction, I'm going to invite Dilek Gürsoy to deliver her speech. Thank you very much, Salih Bey, for this nice introduction. Let me share my screen and let me start my presentation. Yes, I think everybody may see my screen. Yes. The 4th of February 2020, we have started our journey at Central Istanbul campus, and due to the pandemic conditions, we have started to have an online education, and for 15 weeks, we have completed from the content of the education, and from different perspectives, we have come across with some certain barriers. This research was carried out in 2019 and 2020, and this is my experience about digital graphic education. In the first year, digital graphics course is a mandatory course. On the digital environment, we are informing them about the digital tools and digital design approaches. Before the pandemic, we were having in-class learnings and also practices. And face-to-face, 6 weeks was composed of 15 to 20 students. And we were telling the topic of the day, and we were having some graphical exercises, and we were having trials in computers, enhanced training on computers. And there are 4 hours of courses, and we were having one-to-one communication within the environment of university with some software programs. We were providing the equal learning environment for our students. And we were having 2 projects and final projects as the assessment criteria, and they were, of course, in need of creativity, having creativity, presentation, and also creating a content and design. And of course, we have started to adapt ourselves to the online learning environments, and online learning environments, we are limited with some certain sources, and also in class motivation, in class learning environment. And of course, the lack of infrastructure really reflected something negative, and the distance which was created by online learning environment during the exercise practices have made some delays in instant access, and technological infrastructure has limited the environment of learning, and the physical and social isolation not only affected me as a trainer, but also my students' motivation. And also the increased distance between the learners and teachers, of course, have had a negative impact. And the quarantine environment not only affected the students' accessibility, but also it has affected our actually conditions to make them allow an access to every teaching conditions. And so-called problems have tried to be decreased as much as we could. And of course, in the online digital learning environment, we have created an intermedia environment, and we have tried to create a learning environment which was equal and accessible for everyone. and visual communication and transmedia narratives have been restructured. Our course content. What do I mean by transmedia learning? Transmedia learning is by keeping the unity of a learning environment and by fragmenting it, providing opportunities to the students in different learning environments. And the distributed learning environment is totally surrounding the student and aiming to increase the interaction and participation. When we were designing the structure, what type of media platforms would be suitable and how we could bring the learning to the community level and having the participation of the students and bringing out the incentives which will allow them to learn in real working environments. And of course, we are designing according to the needs of the student, needs of the design, and making use of the digital technologies. The tutors, the lecturers are blending the technology with the real learning environments. In the very end, transmedia learning is actively involving the students interacting, collaborating, and also enjoying a student-centered type of approach. All of these listed objectives, of course, do have some certain principles to be implemented in order to achieve them. And the major quantitative research was basing on these 10 learning principles, as you can see on the screen. I'm not going to go into the depths of this, the actually principles. I'll try to explain them in short ways. And when we speak about narrative, it is speaking about, of course, a multi-layered type of narrative approach. Connections is focusing on gamification. Gamification is essential here, and participation is looking for beyond the borders learning and engagement. And immersion. Immersion is, of course, speaking about immersing in the learning environments. And when we look at enthusiasm, of course, it is the flexible learning environments and increasing the interest of the students or preserving the interest of the students. When we look at expansion by making use of different formats, we are aiming to extend the borders of learning. Activism is taking into account the local concerns and local challenges and problems, and of course, providing triggering type of message is very important. And multimodality. Multimodality is making use of different probabilities and conditions, and continuity is the, of course, involvement of actors other than the students and in the learning environment, bringing them together. And sustainability. Sustainability principle is creating an incentive to bring out the necessary equipments and devices for a digital learning environment. And we have restructured the structure of the, of course, digital graphics lesson according to the pandemic conditions. And the Blackboard was the infrastructure, and synchronized and asynchronized type of channels have been used in the live lessons. We have focused on digital graphics, and we have created content to narrate them. And we have also created some short videos, and we have established some certain channels to broadcast these videos. Different sources and accessibility was being provided in the forum area according to the interest of areas. Actually, we have created and extended the borders, and we have created bonus exercises. And among the students, design, sharing, learning, and also interpretation was being supported. In order to increase their interest, we have created actually weekly homeworks, which was in the scope of hot topics in the agenda, and different scenarios have been presented, and they were free about innovating and dreaming and imagining. And of course, other than actually working on design software with design softwares, we have also provided them an open network to make use of different softwares, and specific design capability was not the main scope, but their designs should have been delivered on time, and they should respond to the actually design approaches, and their approach in the visual approaches and the visual representation, of course, was forthcoming. And the data which were being used in this data was focusing on synchronized and asynchronized type of actually contents, Blackboard and Blackboard's performance measurement and the registrations, and also the outcomes of the homeworks and the feedbacks from the students and the teachers have been collected. And all of these as collected have been organized under the title of Transmedia Education, and of course, the interaction, participation, entertainment, and equality type of pillars have been the interpretation pillars. And there are three different platforms which have been followed by the students. One of the active media was the social media, both for it was a platform to present the designs of the students to the actually different spectators, different followers, and also Blackboard and Blackboard type of online platforms have been provided to disseminate the designs and the contents. And of course, we have provided different sources for the students to lead and also to motivate and to see new contents and to bring out new competencies and skills. And they have gone for discovery tours, and we have had some calls and we have tried to create an awareness, and the students have continued this awareness programs, and they have tried to touch the different cultural aspects, and they have somehow been involved in the creation of the content of their courses. They have criticized, given feedbacks about their designs, and interacted with each other. There are some certain challenges we have come across. The new generation's learning actually habits have been multiplied and fragmented and changing according to the latest trends. In order to have in-depth interaction, it is essential to bring out different tools and needs to be integrated in the learning environment. It is something inescapable. Additional to that, of course, it is essential to create the basic tools, and a tool-based type of visual arts education is looking forward to include more than one software, and it needs to be a triggering force to create an impact on the students. Transmedia dynamics needs to meet with the design education. This was something essential, and it is, of course, bringing out some problematic aspects of the design education. And the learning environment is looking forward to get rid of the borders and limitations of the physical learning environments and having in-depth communication and open-end learning environments, participation of the students, and attendance taking top of traditional methodologies are not being the response. It is essential to open new horizons and new ways of having inclusive participation, and access to computer is something very essential. In the online learning environment, it is one of the major challenges which we have come across, and transmedia learning is newly shaping, and in recent time, of course, it is going to gain a ground, and this concept within the scope for the future researchers, of course, in the visual the education system will be taking the transmedia education in a further research steps, and it is essential to have further researchers to have an assessment and evaluation on the transmedia type of courses. I have not come across any transmedia narrative type of researches so far, and I would like to inform my colleagues who are focusing in these fields. Thank you very much for listening to me. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Dilek Hanım. Let me remind you once more, if you have any questions, please write it to the chat box, and to whom you're asking it,